Welcome to the program. Now, CORD supporters have been gathering at Uhuru Park in readiness for a grand march to the headquarters of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This after the High Court granted CORD the right to assemble, dismissing a case by Jubilee MPs. Earlier, CORD leaders vowed to stage demos against the IEBC despite a police ban. Earlier this morning, youth could be seen marching in numbers from Kibra to Uhuru Park to assemble. Pockets of clashes against rival demonstrations have been reported in Huruma and Mathare areas in Nairobi. The Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, had promised a countrywide crackdown on anti-IEBC protesters, saying the police will enforce a court order that stopped the opposition from storming IEBC offices. In Nairobi, area police boss Japheth Kome threatened mass arrests of opposition protesters, including CORD leader Raila Odinga. And right now I want to cross over to our reporter Chris Thairu, who's following this protest at Uhuru Park. And Chris, if you can hear me, perhaps paint to us a picture of what is happening right now in Uhuru Park.
Well, Sharon, a good number of youths continue assembling here at Uhuru Park grounds, waiting for the CORD principals Raila Odinga and Moses Wetangula. We're not yet sure whether the former Vice President and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is back from a trip in Beijing, China. But what we know is that the CORD principals Raila Odinga and Moses Wetangula are in the country, and the good number of youths here who marched all the way from Ayani in Kibra up to here at Uhuru Park grounds, where they assembled, and they're waiting for the CORD principals. Also, we have information that another group of demonstrators is expected from Mathare as well as Kawangware, and they'll be assembling here at Uhuru Park grounds before they march to the IEBC offices at Anniversary Towers. But for now, a good number of youths are still assembling here. As you can, my cameraman has a good view of a group, or that group keeps on increasing and surging and waiting for their leaders. We also have information that Senators James Orengo and Johnson Mudhama, who are co-chairs of the CORD Secretariat, have also addressed a media gathering just a few minutes, and their resolve is that, especially after getting back on the part or getting support from the High Court that indicated that they can continue with their demonstrations and that their demonstrations are lawful. So we'll be expecting them to march to the IEBC offices. They've also put the government on notice that in the next 2 weeks, if no negotiations or mediation that will have come from the Jubilee side of the coalition, then these demonstrations will not only be conducted on Monday on a weekly basis, then they will be conducting them on Monday and as well as on Thursday on a weekly basis, just to ensure that they pile pressure on the Jubilee government to name their mediation team. Remember, CORD has already named theirs, and they are waiting for the Jubilee side of the coalition to name their side of the negotiating team. But so far, what we've seen is that the Jubilee side of the coalition continues to stay put, that any negotiations between the opposition and the Jubilee side of the coalition must be conducted within the confines of Parliament. And so this morning we're also expecting that the Legal Affairs Committee will start collecting views from Kenyans on any possible electoral reforms before the 2017 general elections. And we also have information that at the Anniversary Towers, where we have our crew there, Mohammed Ali is there, and cameraman Hebron is also there. We have information that there's a good number of police officers who have already been deployed around the IEBC IEBC offices just to ensure that the CORD supporters do not forcefully access the IEBC offices and forcefully evict the IEBC commissioners. Sharon.
Right, thank you very much. Chris Dairo there just giving us an update from Uhuru Park and telling us that they are expecting the CORD leaders to make their way there any time from now, and also just giving us that update that security seems to be maintained. There are security officers just ensuring that everything and order is maintained even as the demonstrations continue. Now, the High Court has declined an application by Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria seeking to stop CORD from holding its anti-IEBC protest rallies. The court has ruled that peaceful demonstrations are a right granted by the Constitution and has ordered the police to provide security. In his ruling, Justice Joseph Lu Onguto compelled the Inspector General of Police to provide security and ensure that public safety during the court demonstrations is maintained. He ruled that the police is obligated to ensure law and order should be maintained. Meanwhile, CORD leaders insist that their demos to oust the IEBC commissioners will continue if dialogue is not given a chance. They warned that they may be forced to hold the demos on Mondays and Thursdays until the government embraces dialogue.
We want to appeal to all our people, and in particular the people in Nairobi, to carry out these demonstrations peacefully from beginning to the end. And we have asked them to gather at Uhuru Park where the demonstrations are going to begin. We are going to have peace marshals to ensure that those of members and members of the public who are free and ready to do these demonstrations do so in a peaceable manner and unarmed from beginning to the end. I am glad that the judge today also noted that, all the incidences of demonstrations that we have had so far have been peaceful. They have started peacefully. But whenever there are police interventions, that is when they turn out to be violent.
We are not doing this to intimidate anybody. We are not doing this to force anybody to do anything. We are doing this to demand for the rights of Kenyans. And we are telling Jubilee government, if you don't accept dialogue to take place, and note this, we have been doing this on Mondays. We are going to make it now Monday and Thursday. We give them another 2 weeks. If they don't respond positively, we are going to make it 4 days a week.
Now, business has come to a standstill in Kisumu after CORD supporters made good plans to carry on with their weekly anti-IEBC protest. There are fears that at least one person has died during the protest that turned violent in Kisumu. Police are said to have fired live bullets as they engaged with the demonstrators who hurled stones. Eyewitnesses say the ongoing protests have led to the closure of shops and schools as locals fear getting caught in the crossfire. The protests have extended to neighboring towns, reportedly blocking the Homa Bay Kisumu road. And let's now speak with our Kisumu correspondent, Rashid Ronald, who joins us by way of phone. Rashid, what is the status in Kisumu right now, and can we confirm that one person has lost, their life?
Sharon, as far as KTI was shown a few months ago, the next Masari is always the 8th that is going to demo. And actually, told people have been shot dead allegedly by the police here in Kisumu, and some have been injured, critically injured, thanks to guns from the police gun. So right now, things are really bad in Kisumu. You can enter Kisumu or you come to Kisumu to speak at the moment. Almost 90% of the roads are barricaded, talking of being here and there. And it's running battle in police and they that's morning. Talking about around almost up. So this happened far.
Right. We seem to have a problem there, just getting clear communication from our correspondent from Kisumu, Rashid Ronald, but indeed we shall try to contact him to just find out what the situation in Kisumu is like. And there are fears that one person has died from that end, as police are said to be using or to have used live fire to disband a group of protesters in that city. But we shall try to confirm this and give us reports from Kisumu in our subsequent bulletins. Now, as other parts of the country are engaged in running battles with the police, the coastal city of Mombasa remained calm for most of the morning. Since the anti-IEBC demonstrations started, Mombasa has had only one demonstration, during which Mombasa CORD leaders, led by Governor Hassan Joho, successfully presented a petition to the IEBC offices. This being the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, things are expected to remain the same as the religion agitates for peace during this season. Mombasa streets were jammed with people shopping for Ramadan. Two members of the Wiper Party have condemned the anti-IEBC protests spearheaded by the opposition coalition, terming it as diversionary tactics meant to help the opposition get half the government come 2017. Mwingi North Member of Parliament John Munuve and Wiper Party nominated MP Bishop Robert Mutemi they both say the government and the opposition need to loosen their stance on the electoral body and give room for negotiations.
Wasting a lot of time. But you see, the problem is, these guys have lost before the election is held. They have already lost. So, at most, what they are trying to do is to see where they can get Robo Mukada. See on news this time. They're asking even for Robo. I don't want to Robo what you go. So basically, it's not about elections. It's about these demonstrations are basically an acknowledgement that court has lost the next election.
Now, the Supreme Court is this afternoon expected to start hearing the retirement age dispute between the Judicial Service Commission and two Supreme Court judges. The team led by Chief Justice Willie Mutunga will begin hearings in the appeal filed by Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal and Judge Philip Tunoi following the collapse of mediation talks. At the center of it all is whether the conservatory orders granted by Judge Njoki Ndongo suspending the Court of Appeal decision retiring the judges should stand. Activist Okia Omtata has also applied for the entire bench to disqualify itself on account of conflict of interest. And now following this for us is Murimi Mwangi, who is at the Supreme Court to bring us the latest from the Supreme Court. And Murimi, what can we expect from these hearings this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Sharon. Now, in just an hour from now, the Supreme Court will be reconvening to start hearing that appeal where Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal and suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoi are both challenging the verdict of the Court of Appeal that affirmed the retirement age at 60. But first things first, for the 5-judge bench will be to determine if the Chief Justice acted within his administrative powers when he, of course, set the first hearing date of that case to Thursday last week. You remember the initial date that had been set for the hearing of that dispute was June the 24th. But of course, the Deputy Chief Justice now argues that the Chief Justice did not have the powers to review or vary that date that had been entered by Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u. But of course, as the 5-judge bench reconvenes here, another issue that might come up in the hearing of that dispute is a verdict that was entered by the High Court a few minutes ago. And this is with regard to if the Judicial Service Commission can continue with their investigations against the conduct of Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u. With regard to the manner in which she issued that order. Remember, former LSK CEO Apollo Mboya had moved to the Judicial Service Commission with an application requesting for the JSC to take disciplinary action against Justice Njoki on account of the fact that she issued that order that stayed the Court of Appeal judgment in an improper manner. And in his argument, the best that the judge could have done was to just certify that matter as urgent, awaiting the full sitting of the bench to determine if they would stay the judgment of the Court of Appeal. So as the judges reconvene here, of course, that will be a task that now falls before the JSC, which happens to be a party in the dispute that is before the Supreme Court. And of course, the court reconvenes today after the failed mediation talks that had been initiated by the Law Society of Kenya. That's last Friday. And the dispute in question was as to if the Deputy Chief Justice and suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoi would exit the judiciary as at now after reaching the age of 70 years, or would they have to await longer? Remember, the Deputy Chief Justice had said she is okay to retire from the judiciary, but that has to wait until the 31st of December this year, at which time she would be given the full pensions of having worked for up to 74 years. The bone of contention being whether they were hired under the, or whether their retirement age is 70 pursuant to the current constitution or 74 pursuant to the old constitution under which they insist they were hired. Back to you in studio.
All right. Thank you very much, Murimi, just giving us perspective into that ongoing impasse at the Judicial Service Commission. And of course, that hearing continues, takes place actually in